And so, hello. This is Sue Barinholtz, and I am coming to you live from Boyne City, Michigan. That's in the northern lower peninsula of Michigan, where, yes, we did have a little bit of snow flurries this morning, but by Wednesday, I think it's going to be in the 60s. So that'll be a good thing. And I just wanted to let everybody know that I'm recording this short video, and then when we're done, I'll post it for anybody, but then I'll unmute everybody and you can ask questions. So let's begin. Today is Monday, May 11th, 2020, and this is our first in a series of, I believe, 6 travel talks. We're going to have them every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, same time through the end of May, and each short segment will be a different topic. So today we're going to start with an introduction and talk about what's going on in general with the industry. So, hold on. Okay, so I did this a couple of weeks ago, and I did a long presentation that I tried to incorporate everything into. It was a lot of information, number one, and number two, pretty much everything that I talked about 2 weeks ago has changed, and that's pretty much the state of the travel industry as well as the state of the world. So everything is in flux, and let's go back to loving to travel, because as everybody probably knows, if you know me for sure, you know that I love to travel. And so I want you to think about your first trip that you ever took as a young person, and where did you go, and what did you do, and how was it? And then think about the last trip that you've taken recently, the most recent trip that you've taken, and how that was. And then let's just dream for a minute about our next trip, the future, and when will that be, and how will that be? I know that I gave a brief introduction before and last time, but I'm in the process of rebranding. So we've been Boomer Women Travel since 2012, bringing women together from around the world to do trips. And we're still going to be doing that very much. But at the end of last year, I affiliated with what is called a host agency, and that's a bunch of individual travel advisors, hundreds of travel advisors like myself, that join a larger travel company to be able to offer our clients more. And what that did was that had me expand the company. So the companies that I'm with, MVT and YTC, Montecito Village Travel, and Your Travel Center, are the host agencies. And one of the best parts of that is that I am a member of the Virtuoso Network. And that's important because Virtuoso is the world's finest group of travel advisors and suppliers, and we specialize in luxury and experiential travel. So we have privileged access to exclusive amenities and travel offers, and really rare experiences that most people cannot get on their own. And we partner with over 1,800 of the world's best hotels, cruise lines, tour operators, etc. And this allows me to customize the perfect trips for you. And so what I've done now is, in addition to taking women on trips around the world, which we will start doing again in 2021, starting in January of this year, I started booking individual travel for couples, for families, for other types of groups, and I can do that for you as well. So I also wanted to cite the sources that I'll be using on this travel talk and for the next 2 weeks. So as you can see, the top bar is the company that I'm affiliated with and my membership in Virtuoso. But I also am a member of a lot of these organizations where I have access to their information. CLIA is the cruise line industry organization. IATA is the International Association of Travel Agents, the American Society of Travel Advisors, the U.S. Travel Association, and then a couple of online and local resources like Travel Resource Research Online, Travel Nest, Condé Nast, and Travel Market. ESA is a new one that I've picked up, and it's from the European Union. And so, so we will have some really interesting information from them. So those are the sources that I've used to create this presentation. And a little slow in advancing, so bear with me. Okay. Could you please mute anybody that is joining us? Please mute. If I didn't unmute you. Okay, thank you. And so, when will we travel again? And that's the big question, and it's the million-dollar question, and nobody really has an answer to it. You may have seen in the last few days that Carnival is going to be sailing soon, and that some of the airlines are going to be coming back online. And while they have all the great intentions of doing that, nothing can happen until we open the borders. Not we, but until the countries open the borders. And so right now, all of the borders between the US and other countries are closed unless it's an emergency type of a situation, or unless it's a US citizen that's trying to get back to this country. But in terms of the travel that we're talking about, which is leisure travel, that is pretty much not happening yet. And the question is when, and the answer is nobody knows yet. And so the first thing that has to happen is the borders need to open. And it's interesting, I just read the European Union's Aviation Safety Agency Safety Information Bulletin Guidelines. And these are the guidelines that they've submitted to the government to say, this is what we need to do to get ready to travel again. So picture, if you will, that with 90% of flights that are grounded, where they're grounded and how they're being grounded. Only the most essential of workers are working at airports, and flights are going out, especially around the US, but they're very, very limited. So for the most part, we have runways and airports and planes that are just sitting there, and they've been sitting there for months. So one of the things that needs to happen first is the airports need to do an overall inspection. They have to look at paved and unpaved surfaces. They have to look at surroundings. If any foreign objects or debris or damage to the pavement has happened, if there's any leakage or depressions due to the fact that, especially in Europe, they've just stored their airlines, their airplanes on the ground there. And so they could have depressed into the grounds. Is there wildlife on the tarmac? What's the condition of the fences, the drainage system, the vegetation? Are they blocking signs? Is there enough visibility? Is the electrical power functioning? Is the air navigation facilities and the lighting systems and the signs functioning? Is the rescue and firefighting level of protection in accordance with the expected traffic? And alarm systems and communication systems, and it goes on and on. This is a several-page document. So when you think about reopening and traveling again, it's not as simple as just having the airports say, yeah, we're going to clean up some planes and make it safe for passengers. There's a lot of steps that need to happen before airports can open their borders to other citizens. So yes, there will be onboard cleaning in the biggest way, and we will be safe when we get on the plane. A couple of things that some of the organizations and the airlines are doing. For example, in the lower left, you see a picture, and that's a rapid response blood test. And Emirates Airlines is doing that currently. They're the only ones that are doing that currently. And basically, that's a 10-minute blood test that before you board, you're going to get if you're flying that airline. And it'll tell you if you're sick. And if you are, they won't allow you to fly. That's one way that one airline is doing it. Another way is what they are calling an immunity passport. And they're just testing this out in Australia. And basically, it has to do with an app that I'll get into in a minute. But it's trying to determine if you've been exposed to anybody that has had COVID-19. So there's a lot of procedures and things that need to happen. Now, I showed this slide a couple of weeks ago, and basically the red areas are the areas that you absolutely cannot travel in or out of. And the dark yellow area, you need to use a lot of caution. And the light yellow areas with the lines in it, you need to use some caution. And then we have places like North America, which is us, and there is no caution because you can travel within the United States right now. So this is one of the things that hasn't changed, and this you can find on the state government website. But let's talk about what travel will look like and how it will be different. So in the upper right, I don't know if you can see the slide in the upper right, but there's a plexiglass partition in between the seats. Now this is just a company that's come up with this, and it's not anything that any airline has purchased yet or is implementing, but this is an idea of some of the things that you can see. Of course, in the lower right, there are going to be signs all over the place that are going to tell you the face covering is required. But when you think about social distancing and you think about going to the airport, and just even thinking about your recent experiences going to the airport, how is that going to work, especially in a busy airport during a busy flight period? So obviously you've heard that they're not going to sell middle seats so that no two people can be that close together. And other airlines are going to take different precautions. Again, they are working on this, especially in the US. They're working very closely with the CDC to determine what kind of requirements for all flights will be mandatory. And right now we know that planes are grounded. A lot of routes have been canceled. Some airlines are have folded and are folding. But the idea and the good news is that airline travel risk is the lowest of all the travel. If you think about planes, trains, automobiles, that type of thing, because they have the filtering system, and that's going to be improved on the plane. So that, and you're just going from one spot to another spot, maybe stopping once or twice, but basically we are just waiting to hear what the airlines are going to implement. Another thing that's happening in, I think it's Australia, is what's called contact tracing. And it's an app that you can download. And again, they're just testing this. And it will identify and alert people who've come into contact with people that have had the virus. And what is going to be interesting is to see what, if any, form of this will come to the US, because it is a huge invasion of privacy, and that facilitates a whole nother conversation of, is this something that we can do? Is this something that we can't do? How much is too much? And are we going to risk safety versus finding out more information about people that we don't necessarily know? This is all in the planning phases. There is nothing that is absolutely concrete when it comes to air travel that they have decided on, including when we will be able to travel beyond the US again. So it's going to look very different. Australia's Jetstar, which is owned by Qantas, is asking passengers to download their government's contact tracking application to the phone. So that's an ask. And then you have countries like China, for example, where they don't ask. They tell you what you have to do in order to do things. So it's a fine line that a lot of the different countries are trying to balance. So that's how it's going to look. We don't know much about it. If you do have current reservations, the recommendation in all of the travel industry is wait and see. And they're saying that don't cash in your tickets, don't ask for a refund, just wait and see. And the wait and see is wait for the vendor that you booked with, the airline, the cruise line, the hotel, the whatever it is, the tour, to cancel the reservation before you cancel the reservation. Because when the vendor cancels the reservation, you will have the amenities, you will have the refund. In many cases, you will have more. I'm working with a few clients now on a luxury cruise that was scheduled to go out next month, and they could have taken 100% of what they paid or 125% on a future cruise credit. And it took probably 8 or 10 hours of research to really dig in to see which was the better offer. They went with 125%. But you also have to be careful with that, because in that case, they had bought a land package. And right now, the land package is not included in the credit for, you can't use the credit for the land package. So if that doesn't change, then they have to pay extra for that. So there's a lot of different things that are going on with current reservations. I would say if you haven't heard about a cancellation from a current reservation that you have, just keep checking back with them. I canceled the reservation with Allegiant Airlines before they were able to cancel it. If I would have waited a few more weeks, they would have canceled it and I would have been able to get a refund. But because I canceled early, and this was sometime in March, before they had actually canceled the flights, I cannot get a refund. I can only have a credit to use on a future flight, and that expires within a year. So you want to be really careful if you have current reservations. And if you have any questions about that, just contact me and I'll help you. So I wanted to, that's pretty much all the information that we are going to share today. I want to get your questions as well, which will go to sharing your screens and being able to listen and hear in just a moment, so I can get your questions. But if you do have any other questions, you can just email them to me. Wednesday, we're going to talk about hotels and what's going on in the hotel industry. And on Friday, we're going to talk about what's going on in the cruise industry. And then next week, we'll talk more in detail about frequent flyer miles, points with your credit cards, and a lot of other things that are going on. So, so if you do have questions on that, just let me know. I am going to now try to get back to my participants. I'm going to unmute you all, and I'm going to try to stop sharing my screen. Stop sharing my screen. Okay, so we should all be here. We should all be unmuted. Beth, you're still muted because I think you might have yourself. Okay, so we've got, okay. So let's, does anybody have any specific questions right now to begin with, or do you want to start with an introduction? Anybody? Somebody is asking if this applies to American Express miles converted to airline tickets using points. That's something that I'm going to research and we'll talk about next week. I did have a client that used some miles to book a ticket, and she ended up calling the credit card company directly to find out before I could. But I'm going to check, I'll check that out and report more on that when we talk about points next week. So let's just say who you are and where you are, and if you have any questions you can let us know that. So as I said, I'm Sue, and I am in Boyne City, Michigan. And Cheryl, let's start with Cheryl.
I'm Cheryl, and I'm from Scottsdale, Arizona, and I've traveled originally from Michigan. I moved here about 14 years ago, and I've traveled with Sue and her groups for quite a few times now. Mm-hmm. Very informative, by the way, Sue. I don't have any questions as of yet, but these are all good to know.
Okay, great. Lori Beth.
Oh,
Mute yourself. No, Lori. Lori, I'm going to start with Lori. I called her Lori Beth. So you
can you hear me?
I can.
Hi. So,
hi.
Lori, thank you. I'm Lori Spoon. This is my first time joining, and I hope to travel in the future with this group. I'm in Alger, Michigan, mid-Michigan, a Michigan native, and long time friend of Sue's. So it's nice to meet everybody.
Since the beginning, yes.
Right.
On a side note, notice the earrings and the necklace. This was one of my very many gifts from Lori Beth for a birthday or something. We get each other gifts all the time. Okay, Lisa, welcome.
Hi, I'm Lisa Brocker, and I'm from Farmington Hills, Michigan. I recently retired, and my last job I traveled extensively for my company. So I'm looking forward to doing more leisure traveling and just going to different countries and doing different things. So, and this is my first time joining the group and meeting everyone. So thank you. It was nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. Thanks for being here. Okay, Beth in Traverse City.
You sure?
Hi.
Hi, I'm good afternoon. I'm Beth in Traverse City, as Sue said. To Italy with Sue in October. Got a pizza with her last Wednesday. And that's about it. No questions.
Okay. Tammy. Muted. You have to unmute yourself. Unmute.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right. My name is Tammy. I live in Phoenix, Arizona. I am new to the group, and I've traveled quite a bit internationally, and so I was the one that raised the question around the transfer of points. I was supposed to be going to Greece with a girlfriend this summer, and I did reach out to Amex on it, and they said, you know, at this point, we don't know anything, so just waiting on that. But looking forward to seeing what trips in the future you're offering and whether it's a place that I haven't yet traveled to. So thank you for including me.
So you used Amex points
I
for
did.
airline ticket?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, for 2 plane tickets for both of us to go. I think we were stopping in New York and then on to Athens and back.
Okay. And what about the rest of the trip booking?
The rest of the trip I booked through a travel agent on the ground there in
Mhm.
Greece that had, numerous positive ratings through TripAdvisor and things like that. And they were great, to work with in terms of really catering to the various stops that we wanted to make and providing the transportation to each of the destinations that we wanted to get to, as well as I think we were looking primarily at 4-star hotels. So they made all the arrangements, and I have not yet contacted them because I'm a financial advisor, so I have the news on all the time, do a lot of reading, and have heard what you stated in that if you have them cancel, then you're much more likely to get a full refund. So we'll see.
Okay. Yeah, I'll be interested to know how that goes for you, Tammy. And if you need any help, let me know.
Thank you.
Ida.
Hi, I'm Ida from Scottsdale. Retired from the military a couple of years ago. So originally from South Carolina. So I'm going to be traveling back to South Carolina in June because I miss my family. And Sue, I will send you a detailed description of my experience with any changes in the airport procedures and things like that, because I'll be going through several airports. And but probably mid-June is when I'm looking at. I went online to look at tickets, and I was thinking we'd be getting some good deals, but we're really not. The thing is that the prices are around the same, but there are less flights, so less choices. So there are no savings to be had right now.
Okay. Send me your desired itinerary, and I'll look on some of my consolidators too and see if I can find anything.
Oh, great. Thanks. Okay.
You bring up a great point, Ida, is that, yeah, okay, so we're ready to travel, but because 90% of the domestic flights have been grounded, we're not going very quickly. Some airports are completely closed and some routes are completely canceled. So
Yes.
it's less to offer. And you're right, it's not, the prices are not really go down, because if you think about it, if they only did, the middle seat, what that will do to revenues, but all the other considerations. So Susan's on her iPad. Can you hear us, Susan?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
And,
where are you calling from?
I'm in Waterford, Michigan,
Okay.
and I retired about a year ago and met with you when you had the little dinner in Southfield, and was just looking forward to starting to travel. And so here we are.
Yeah. Okay. I was wondering if that was going to be you. So welcome and thank you for coming. What I'm going to do is, we only have a short time here left, but does anybody have anything that they want to share with anybody? And it could be travel related or not. Do you want to see Beth? Yeah. Beth? Baba, yes. I can't hear you. So Beth drove with Bubba and me from Traverse City to Phoenix in November. To be very close friends with Bubba, and he loves her. She was here. Beth came to visit last week, and Bubba was more excited than he's been since we arrived in Michigan over a month ago. So we're excited about that. So what else is going on with anybody in the next 5 minutes that we have to share? Anything? Is there any other topics that you'd like me to talk about too? Oh, now he's going crazy. All right. Well, it was great to see everybody, and I hope that you have a fabulous week. Check back on Wednesday at the same time when we talk a little bit more about what's going on in the hotel industry. We'll answer some other questions too, but we'll get into more detail on the hotels. So thank you all for coming, and I hope to see you again soon.
Thanks, Sue.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.